it's quite easy to deliver your dry goods that are really calorically dense, like your rice, your potatoes, your carrots. Like they store well, they travel well, but getting fresh food into food relief programs is difficult. It's got a short shelf life. How are you going to move it? It's got seasonal availability. So they approach this with the idea of, can we install a vertical farm there that both provides employment for the Ukrainian refugees there, as well as provides food into the food relief programs. And it, no easy feat, like just the little logistics around, like it's a different electrical source there. Okay, we're putting this in an old Soviet era factory. What does the water source look like? How do we train people in 3 different languages?
In today's conversation, I brought on Connor Tidd, co-founder and CEO of a company called Just Vertical. Just Vertical offers indoor vertical farming to consumers and farmers with their plug-and-play systems that have a truly vertical design and enable year-round produce production. Today, we talk about making vertical farming work, whether that's scaling access to food, boosting food chain resiliency, or what it means to have farmer-first partnerships. This is Earth ABC, featuring Connor Tidd. All right, we got someone who's addressing food insecurity, Connor Tidd with Just Vertical. Thank you so much for joining me here today.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Excited to be here.
And so food security isn't going away anytime soon. And one thing that I saw is that the future of food is growing up, not out. What exactly does that mean?
Yeah, so it's kind of the reality we need to face is that we've got more people than ever on this planet, and we don't have any more agricultural land. All the new land for farming we're getting is coming at the expense of things like cutting down the rainforest. And obviously we don't want that to happen. So that's where vertical farming enters the picture, where we can grow up farms in any location around the world without having to give up that precious land we've already got. And we can grow much more densely than regularly we would outdoors.
So you're basically maximizing the usage of land, at least like on the horizontal plane, by growing up. But for those that aren't familiar with vertical farming, like, are there any sacrifices that are being made to traditional farming methods?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's about the trade-off. So the biggest thing is, like you said, you're getting that density. For anybody who's not seen a vertical farm or not been in one, imagine just walking through these giant aisleways where the plants can be growing, 10, 15, 20 feet tall. And you get huge volume out of low square footage. The trade-off, of course, is you're going inside, meaning you're going to be using artificial lighting to grow those plants. So you get to grow it all year round, but you're imitating the sun. So we say, in terms of a sustainability lens, your vertical farm is only ever going to be as clean as your power grid or your energy grid is. So it's important that you take those other factors into consideration.
And so food insecurity can mean a bunch of things. What does that mean for you and Just Vertical?
Yeah, for us, food insecurity at its core means somebody doesn't have the ability to buy that fresh food, that vitamin-rich diet that they need. That can either be, a lack of income, or most often how we see it at Just Vertical is a lack of access. So if you think about communities in the far north, in Canada, we've got fly-in communities, boat access only, where they can't grow their own food using traditional methods. So any of the fresh produce that gets there, if they get it, it's usually at the end of its life, and it's crazy expensive. So for us, being able to tackle food security in those communities means giving them a source of fresh food, fresh produce all year long at an affordable price.
And so what exactly are you selling? And then who are you selling to?
Yeah, so at Just Vertical, we do everything from an indoor garden you can put right into your kitchen, all the way up to commercial scale farms that are hundreds of thousands of plants tucked into a warehouse in downtown centers, and you'd never know they're there. So we started on the consumer side, and it was really all about taking the really cool cutting edge technology around vertical farming and putting it into something that looks like a piece of furniture. So we've got 3 consumer products that look and feel like they belong in your home. They're super easy to use. And then we just took that same technology and built it out for commercial applications, whether that's a container farm, warehouse farm, or even a custom built setup for you.
Awesome. So you have stuff for both like the regular consumer. For me, if I want to grow a mini farm in my kitchen, I could do so with one of your products. And if I am a farmer and I have large plots of land, I could also use the same or similar technology on my farm.
Yeah, absolutely right. It's taking the same concepts and making them fit into that application. So obviously, if you're doing this at home, we want to make sure it's fairly easy, fairly foolproof for you. Whereas if you're a farmer and you're taking this on as a source of income, we want to make sure it's financially viable. So we try and build it to be the most efficient, even if it's not the prettiest out there.
Yeah. And we've seen a couple of things come up in the past and that exist currently with like vertical farming. What makes just vertical different, both in terms of like an operations point of view and from an IP standpoint?
Yeah, so for us, the focus has been really on accessibility, making sure the farms and the products are easy to use. I come from a farming and agricultural background myself, where I've worked in big ag, I've worked on small scale farms, and like there's no getting around the fact that being a farmer is hard work. And often when you're out there and you're harvesting lettuce, you're harvesting tomatoes, like it's pretty backbreaking work. So we wanted to try and minimize that as much as possible and make these farms something that's enjoyable to work in as much as possible. So the accessibility is a big one. And the way we've done that is our farms are truly vertical. And when I say that, I mean, it's like a flat wall you look at where it's growing towards you. Whereas a lot of the other times when you hear vertical farming, it's actually just kind of like stacked shelves, which are quite difficult to work in. You got to think you're bending down and reaching over 3 feet to get to the back of those. So for us, it was taking into consideration who's working in those farms from the get-go and how can we tailor the technology to the people and not just, doing tech for tech's sake.
Yeah, that's very true. So I guess when it comes to interacting with like your vertical farm, whether it's like management or maybe even expanding the vertical farms that you have installed, what does that look like for both the consumer and for the farmer?
Yeah. So one of the cool things we do is we try and make sure we're a turnkey solution for folks. So often people come to us and say, hey, I know I want to do vertical farming and I've kind of got this space. Can you walk me through how you get there? And that's where we come in. So we'll walk them through. Here's the power. You need the electricity. We want to make sure all the conditions are right. Do you have someone to sell it to? Is it going to make sense financially? And then we'll go in, we'll ship the equipment, help them build it, and then they get up and running. And there's kind of different levels of control systems depending on how complex your farm is. So, we like to automate things like dosing the nutrients or refilling the water when you're on a big farm versus if you've just got a little garden in your home, same concept. We ship it fully assembled, so it's super easy for you to use. But, we're only going to use 1 or 2 nutrient blends that you're going to put in for yourself every 2 weeks. So same concept of making it accessible and that you only need to water your plants every 2 weeks. It waters itself. Grow lights are all built in, but varying levels of control depending on how big your farm is and what you want to get out of it.
I see. So it sounds like the accessibility scales with the type of consumer. So if I am pretty much like the lay person, it's pretty much all I got to do is water and everything else comes prepackaged. And if I am like a farmer, then there's a lot more that comes with like the just vertical package that I can really have more customization with the plants that I'm growing.
Yeah, absolutely. On the consumer side, we've got people who say they used to kill cactuses who are now growing successfully. So we try and make it as foolproof as possible for people.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. And so with just vertical and then any like vertical farming in general, like what can vertical farming be in the future? Like what exactly does that look like?
Yeah, in my view, it's definitely a complement to existing farming. So, I can tell you, I don't think vertical farming is ever going to replace farming as an industry, right? There's certain things like the big row crops, like your wheat, your corn, your canola, your soy. We're just so good at growing that and harvesting that The average farm out in the prairies is now over 1,000 acres. Combines are 100 feet wide. Like, we're not anywhere close to that efficiency in vertical farming for those crops, but certain things like lettuces, your leafy greens, your herbs, cherry tomatoes, strawberries, a lot of that is still pretty rudimentary how we farm it outside with people picking it by hand. I think we're going to be able to replace a good portion of that. But the biggest thing it's going to do is it's going to add stability to the food supply chain, right? When you think about the prevalence of hurricanes and natural disasters, and I'm sitting in Toronto where it hit 45 degrees last week. Like, it's pretty wild, like the changing climate, the effects it has on agriculture. So bringing it inside and having some control is going to add some stability to that. And hopefully we'll see less fluctuations in prices of food as well as in food quality.
Mm-hmm. So it kind of goes at the theme of like resiliency to the food supply chain, and I'm all for that. And you mentioned before that it helps provide more stability to farmers with like their income stream. And one of my prior guests, shout out Isabella Bernal, she mentioned that farmers have a very low, like single-digit profit margin. And so how would just vertical play into that in kind of giving farmers a bit more financial breathing room?
Yeah, so one of the cool things that adding indoor vertical farming does when you add it to a farm is, it doesn't take up a ton of room, but it provides a steady source of year-round income. The other really important thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is you've got a big seasonal labor problem on farms where, obviously growing season, there's a lot more people there than not. Adding a vertical farm also adds stability to your labor pool, and that you're able to retain employees for longer because they've got things to do throughout the winter. So you kind of now have a baseline income stream that's reliable throughout the year. And it also provides a reliable source of employment so that you can keep the institutional knowledge around your farm on your farm for longer. So it's really that stability and making sure you're not tied into that one great harvest at the end of the year, right? You do have some diversity in your income streams.
Gotcha. I didn't really think about it in terms of like seasonal workers where they're probably just working like spring, summer, and fall, and then winter, like they got to find a job elsewhere. So keeping them is also beneficial for like the everyday like worker on the farms, which is nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then just in the, I guess, market with, I guess, vertical farming and indoor farming, we had Fright Farms like file for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. What exactly is the significance of that?
Yeah, so Freight Farms is kind of the latest in a string of bankruptcies in the indoor farming world. And it's, Freight Farms was tough to see because they were kind of an institution in the space. They've been around since 2013. Like, it's a young industry, so 2013 they were one of the oldest. But what we've seen and what the downfall I think has been of a lot of these, and this includes Plenty and the Arrow Farms who raised hundreds of millions of dollars in the space, has been they're chasing software level venture capital returns where you can get 10x year over year over year, while ignoring the fundamentals of farming is still farming at the end of the day, right? You can do well farming and great income, but it's not building the next Facebook or the next Airbnb. It's not a get rich quick scheme. So there's a lot of, I think, technology being built for technology's sake, and a lot of ignoring the fundamentals of how do we grow these plants faster in a more effective, safer way, and how do we make it better for the people growing it. So that's been our kind of laser focus since the start, is that just like how do we drive profitability for our farmers that you can lose sight of when you're raising these mega financial rounds to chase the idea that everything's going to be automated and super easy, right? Like you can't ignore the fundamentals of farming, that somebody's still got to be in there. They got to be doing the work. It's not a free ride.
Yeah. I think that makes a great point. And I think conversely, it seems like you guys grew pretty sustainably. You guys have been around since like 2016, 2017. And now you guys are a 11-person company with global reach. How did you guys manage to navigate growth and, again, like this sustainable way, and managing and balancing the benefits for farmers while also like company?
Yeah, for us, it's always been, maintaining that focus on product and on margins, on saying like, before we develop anything new, like, is this actually helpful for the farmers that we're building for? Does this improve the product? And like staying away from the pie in the sky research for research's sake. And I say that like, we started this company, Kevin and myself, coming out of our master's degrees. So like we're two guys who love research. Like we love to tinker around and find those cool new things. But you do need to really stay focused on the fundamentals of it, of what's going to grow your plants better and happier. So it's been that, and then try not to grow too fast, try not to over hire, and make sure the team's all aligned, and making sure the farms that we do build are successful. Like the worst thing that can happen for us is that we build a farm and then a year later it's not being used, right? We want to make sure that our farms and our products are built to last, and our farmers are equipped to be successful. So it's been really a focus on that.
Mm-hmm. I imagine with this philosophy that you have your own product in your own house, correct?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. So what does this system look like for you in the case that you do have a traditional farming background, you have pretty extensive domain knowledge? So what kind of, I guess, parts of the consumer package of your product are included in the one in your home?
Yeah, so I'm lucky that I've had all of them in my house because I get to just rotate them out from the office. So right now I've got the Eco Wall, which is our newest product. So it's 88 plant sites, so it's almost like a quasi green wall. The really cool part about it is with 88 plant sites, like that's enough that it meaningfully like takes away from going to the grocery store, especially because ours is a 2-person house, like no kids or anything here. So if we were to do just lettuce in this, we'd be churning out 22 heads of lettuce per week. So it's a lot of lettuce. So that's why, we got to mix in the herbs, the cherry tomatoes, hot peppers. But like this is the biggest size our consumer unit gets, and it's our newest product. So that's why I've got it. I want to get that hands-on experience and testing with it.
Yeah, I can't think of any other better person to test the product than yourself. I'd love to hear about like other cool and interesting projects that you're working on, including the one where you built a indoor farm to help Ukrainian refugees in Moldova. So yeah, could you walk us through like a couple?
Yeah, absolutely. So the project we did in Moldova is really cool. It's near and dear to my heart. So we partnered with a charity called Global Medic, who does emergency disaster relief around the world. And they came to us with a proposal of, look, we've got a food program in Moldova, which is a tiny country in Eastern Europe that borders Ukraine, that due to the war in Ukraine has got a ton of refugees that have both moved through Moldova, and quite a few have settled there and somewhat become permanent refugees as this war has dragged on. They said, the challenge we're having is that it's quite easy to deliver your dry goods that are really calorically dense, like your rice, your potatoes, your carrots. Like they store well, they travel well, but getting fresh food into food relief programs is difficult. It's got a short shelf life. How are you going to move it? It's got seasonal availability. So they approached us with the idea of, can we install a vertical farm there that both provides employment for the Ukrainian refugees there, as well as provides food into the food relief programs. And it, no easy feat, like just a little logistics around, like it's a different electrical source there. Okay, we're putting this in an old Soviet era factory. What does the water source look like? How do we train people in 3 different languages? So we worked through that all with them, shipped it over, and then myself and another member of our team actually flew over there for about a week and a half to build it on site with their team, train the team, and get them up and going with their first grow. And since then, they've been growing really successfully. And for us, it was really cool to see that project come to life, because that's what we started Just Vertical for, was to tackle those food security issues. And My view on it is if we can do it in Moldova on the Ukrainian border where there's a war raging, we can do this anywhere. Like anybody can take this on.
Yeah, that is a really cool project, and I can see why it also has like personal significance too. If you could rewind time and approach this project differently, considering like the language barriers that you mentioned, the facility constraints with the different types of electricity and like water source, how would you approach a project like this? I guess smarter, maybe more efficient.
Yeah. With this one, it was because it was our first one. We were, a little cautious about, okay, like how big do we actually want to build it for these folks? Because like I said, farming's still quite a bit of work. And I was actually completely blown away by how quickly they took up the skills and started growing. Knowing what I know now, I would have actually given them more equipment and more intense growing.
Oh wow.
Because they've just done an incredible job taking it on, and hats off to the team over there running it. Like when we got there, like we had a lot of pre-planning calls, making sure that they installed the right water filtration, the electricity was there. Like we showed up and that site was like ready to go, and it was in a far better state than like sites that we built on in like Toronto. And it's like the team over there was really on the ball. So if anything, I wish we gave them more equipment, but maybe we got some more projects down the line with them, and hopefully once the war ends there, we can help out with the rebuild efforts within the borders of Ukraine as well.
Mm-hmm. I'd love to get a sense of, I guess, scale too. And I know that a majority of your customers are from the US and Canada. So I'd imagine like your largest scale customer is some farmer in either of these two countries. For someone that has a very large scale farm, what does engagement look like from you for you guys from, I guess, learning about just vertical all the way to like implementing the system and then managing it?
Yeah. So, a large farmer for us would be somebody who's growing, 150,000 plants at any one time, right? So usually that takes about eight to 10,000 square feet is kind of what we consider a large farm. And often those are people coming to us who have a space already. So like they probably have a warehouse space or an old barn or a shed. And it's, hey, I want to diversify my income, or maybe they make a salad already, or they do meal kits, whatever it may be. And it's kind of like a vertical integration play. It's okay, I know I want to grow this. I want to sell it to this person. Does it make sense? What's it going to cost me? What are my upgrades going to be? So we like to say, okay, like, let's try and figure this out as quick as possible for you, because we don't want to waste anybody's time. So we'll have a call, some virtual walkthroughs, and we'll do a basic financial model. If that points in the right direction, then we'll engage in a design period where we'll actually go out to the site ourselves. We'll speak to the local utilities. We'll do a visual inspection of the space, make sure everything's up to code, up to able to handle the load of a farm. And we'll do a model and then a detailed financial plan for them and say, okay, it's going to cost you this much exactly to build the farm. Here's how much you're going to be selling it for to this customer. Here's your schedule. Here's how long it's going to take to build. Do we want to go ahead and do it? And that's kind of the yes or no. If they say yes, we put things into production, build the control systems, everything, and then help them install it, commission it. And then we do kind of like 4 or 5 hands-on training with them at the start. So usually it's teaching them how to seed, how to transplant, and how to harvest. And then usually we'll come back kind of 3 months in as well to optimize. And then always the ongoing virtual support. Usually they'll engage us in kind of like a yearly support contract, just so that we're there to answer their questions and help them out with whatever they need.
Sounds pretty hands-on to me.
Yeah, like I said, it's like we really want these farmers to be successful, and it's really about building that confidence at the start, so that they're able to take on those challenges themselves when we're gone.
Right. And to me, like that all kind of signals that instead of you treating like farmers as just like customers, like you kind of view them as like partnerships.
Absolutely, right. And it's, part of it is the mission and vision and values, and part of it is like farmers talk to one another. If you build one of these that people have invested a significant amount of money in and it doesn't work, people are going to find out, right? Like there's no way of hiding that. So it's pride in the project, pride in the partners.
Hmm. And so with that, I think growing sustainably matched with like really treating, I guess, farmers as like partners in your entire like business plan. What does future growth look like for you guys?
Yeah. So we've got some really cool projects under construction, some that are in their end phases that you're going to see go live this fall, that are bigger than ever. Also testing new crops always. So, we always joke like there's fads and trends in fruits and vegetables, just like there is in fashion. Like it's,
Interesting.
a new curly lettuce that people are trying to develop, or sweeter strawberries, what have you. So we're always putting new crops into testing that might not have traditionally been available on the grocery store shelves because often they're difficult to grow or they don't have a great shelf life. But when you're growing them right next to the grocery store, you can put them in there. So I think there's going to be some cool, exciting things over the next few years that we're excited to launch.
Yeah. I imagine social media spreads a lot of these like trends like wildfire, where it's like you have an influencer who's like in Sweden, check out these like new strawberries, and there's like seeds available that you could buy in my like TikTok shop or something. And yeah, I think all of that could kind of tie in really well with you guys. I'd love to ask you one last question as like a closing thing. Why should someone bet on you and your company, Just Vertical?
Yeah, I think that the reason to bet on us is we, like we've talked about here on the podcast, is like we treat our customers like they're people, like they're our partners. And uh, you know, farming is not new. It's probably the oldest ongoing business. Like we're just the next development of that. So I think we've got the right approach, and we're trying to take it slow, steady, and focus on what matters to people, and not always going for the most glamorous robot, computer vision, automation piece. They're coming in time, but we got to get those basics right first
Right.
for success.
Hmm. I really love the, I guess, viewpoints that you have with like growing the business sustainably, focusing on the experience of the consumers, making sure that it's accessible for every single level, from consumer all the way to actual farmers. And yeah, really appreciate you taking the time to join me in conversation today, Connor.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great conversation. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this interview, follow along on Earth EBC's LinkedIn to stay connected and never miss what's going on in climate tech. If you'd like to reach out or you're interested in coming on as a guest, feel free to connect with me, Sean Pack, on LinkedIn. We're always looking for inspiring ventures and founders in the climate space to feature on the show. Hope you enjoyed. Until next time.